Hi guys, welcome to my review of Once a Pine. It's a new show, it's not as good as Once Upon a Time. Welcome to my review of Once Upon a Time episodes 614, page 23, and 615, A Wondrous Place. I'm doing a double review this week because I didn't manage to do my review last week. So, just to get it over and done with, I am just a massive loser and I didn't watch 614 until I had 615 available to watch as well, because I knew that I was going to get upset and stressed about the Captain Swan scenario. Even though I knew it was going to be fine, I knew that I wasn't going to enjoy it, and so I was like, I'm just going to wait until next week when I've got both of them to watch together. So to get that angst out of the way before I talk about anything else, I'm glad that they went down the route with Emma, that they had her more angry about the fact that he was trying to burn the memory than the fact that he had, committed the crime in the first place, because obviously it was a very long time ago. It doesn't excuse it, but it was back at the time where he was Captain Hook and he was a villain, and so it was nice to see that her automatic reaction, as we all knew that it would be, was more that she was upset that he was hiding it from her, rather than she was upset at what had actually happened. I loved that idea. I thought Jane was just like, well, Jane and Colin both were incredible in that scene, but Jane was just so good in that scene with those moments of saying, like, we would have worked through it together, like, why wouldn't you come to me? That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to come to me with these things. And as a viewer, you're sitting there and you're like, he tried to come to you with it, but because you found the ring, it just threw this huge spanner in the works, and he didn't want to ruin that moment of happiness for you, and oh, it just became a big mess. I did think his idea of like, oh, I'll go away, like, and, take some time to become the better man for it again thing was a bit of a stupid idea in the first place, because he should have just stayed to work his way through it. But I was really glad that by the end of that episode, after he'd spoken to Snow and he'd had that moment to think, like, okay, so Regina's managed to do it, like the evil queen's managed to go and get a happy ending, so maybe that means that I can get past this too. And so that was a lovely scene. I loved the scene between him and Snow. We don't get very many moments that are just really between them, and I thought that that was lovely. I absolutely loved how Snow spoke to him and said that, Emma had waited such a long time to find the right person to share her life with, and she was really glad it was him, and I was like, oh, so am I. I'm really glad it's him too. Anyway, fangirling aside, at the end of that episode, rage. Seeing Emma standing in the house looking for him and feeling like she'd been abandoned again, because this is what we're going to go into. I'm going to go into it in the next episode. But standing there and thinking that he'd gone and feeling that sense of loneliness and isolation again that she used to have was just heartbreaking. And yeah, so going to push that aside. That's all I'm going to say about the drama in that episode in terms of Captain Swan. This episode, however, was obviously very much centred around Regina and the Evil Queen, and finally, after all of this time, it was about Regina reconciling these two sides of herself, realising that one can't exist without the other, and that both parts of her have good and bad in them, and that you can't just split it down the middle and say, you're all the evil things and I'm all the good things. And finally getting to that point where she could recognise how hurt and sad and hateful the Evil Queen side of her had been, and how that must still be tearing her apart. And making that decision to be like, do you know what, rather than trying to destroy you or get rid of you, I'm going to choose to show you love, and I've got to a point where I'm happy with myself, and so I want you to feel that way. And so splitting taking the hearts out and splitting the love between the two of them, so the love that she'd been shown by Henry and by Robin and by her family, and splitting that with the Evil Queen's darker, lonelier heart, I thought was really lovely. That whole scene was beautifully done by Lana, because obviously it's really difficult to be acting such an emotional scene with yourself. It's why I have massive amounts of respect for people like Lana and Tatiana Maslany from Orphan Black, who are playing multiple characters and have to act opposite themselves, because that's really difficult to get that real sense of connection and emotion across when you're playing two different people within the one scene, and she just did an incredible job. So I'm really glad that we've finally reached that point with her, because at the start of the episode I was sort of like, oh, what is the scenario with her and Robin now? What's she going to do to Robin? And I wanted that storyline to be rounded off quite nicely, because I didn't want the old Robin memory to really be tainted by the new Robin doing anything particularly bad. So I actually think that the idea of the Evil Queen and the other Robin starting a new life together in the Wish Realm is just a really lovely way to round that storyline off. It's a way to create closure for the Outlaw Queen I mean, it's still not ideal, but it was a way to create a slight sense of closure for that Outlaw Queen storyline, that in another life maybe they would have got to live happily ever after, and there would be a chance for those two people to start over together. And I just thought that that was a really nice way of doing it. Bravo Adam and Eddie, because I wasn't sure where they were going to go with this when they brought the new Robin in, and I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but I actually think that that was a really lovely way of handling it. So overall, I thought 614 was an excellent episode. I really enjoyed it, and I think, as I say, it was a lovely way to round off that storyline with the evil queen and help Regina to realise that, you know, it's not as life is not as simple as just taking the bad out of you and throwing it away. It's about learning to live with the things that you've done and share that burden, and I think that that is what she did in the end, is have those flashbacks to that moment where the evil queen realised that the person that she hated the most was herself and not Snow. Like, she hated herself even more than she hated Snow. It was really heartbreaking, and I think that then having that scene, or seeing that flashback just before that scene between Regina and the evil queen in her office, was perfectly timed, because it made you understand when Regina kind of looked in the broken mirror and saw that and had that memory, realising how much pain the evil queen was in, and realising that maybe showing her mercy and giving her a chance to start over was the better way to handle it than doing what the evil queen was planning to do, which was to just kill her off. So yeah, very good episode, absolutely loved it. Moving on to 615. Oh, I loved this episode. It was incredible. Both these episodes were really good, and I'm actually glad that I kept them to watch together, although they weren't actually all that connected other than what had happened to Hook from one episode to the other. I don't know about you guys, but I felt like this episode was just like the ultimate, like, fun, escapist, cheesy, Disney dream come true episode. Although we had the Emma stuff to deal with, which I'll get to in a minute, the storyline with Hook and Jasmine and Ariel was just so much fun, and Colin John Hugh was at like optimum gorgeousness as always, but like I think this episode was just like, he was so determined that he was getting back to her that like he was even hotter than he usually is, so that was definitely a perk. Karen David, can we please take a moment to just talk about Karen David as Jasmine? She is so incredibly beautiful. I actually can't even get my head around it. Forgot to mention Aladdin when I was listing the people who were involved in this adventure. Scenes that I particularly enjoyed. The scene when Kellen was trying to kind of plot out where they were going. I don't know exactly what he was doing at that point. Was it when they were trying to find another Kraken, or whatever he was doing, he was plotting stuff out, and Aladdin had kind of come in and been like, so did Jasmine say anything about me? And he was sort of like, oh, for two people in love, you guys don't really communicate very well, do you? And I was sort of like, oh, it's like the early days of Captain Swan, like the toing and froing and the will they won't they. And he's like looking back and being like, oh, just get a move on, like don't waste time. So I really enjoyed that, and I also really enjoyed the scenes between Jasmine and Hook. The scene where she'd seen him staring out into the sea and sort of asked if it helped, and then was talking about the fact that she'd made so many mistakes with Agrabah in the past and what she should have done, that she felt like maybe she wasn't deserving of love, and that's why she wasn't going for it with Aladdin. And he was kind of like, well, you know, I felt like that too up until very recently, and I thought that was quite a nice connection for those two to have, and to have someone to talk to about what they were going through. I thought that was quite nice. I really liked having Ariel back. I always love when they bring back characters like that. Oh, speaking of, I love that they had Tinkerbell back in the episode before. Love Rose McIver so much. She's amazing. Speaking of which, iZombie's coming back. Very excited. Just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, Rose McIver back as Tinkerbell was great. I always love to see her. And then having Joanna coming back as Ariel was just lovely. So especially if this is going to be the last season, I'm really glad if we can get little cameos from as many of the old faces as possible. So yeah, the Jafar putting Agrabah in the ring thing, I thought when Jasmine went in her pocket and she was like, oh, I've got this ring and I didn't have it before, I thought that that must be connected. I didn't realise he put the city in the ring. But I figured that it must be sort of loosely connected at some point. I really enjoyed the scene when they went into Ariel's little cabin and then she came in and was sort of like reunited with all of them. It's like, what a bizarre combination of people to be standing in my house. So I like that. I like the chemistry between all of them. I thought that that was a lot of fun. Meanwhile, back in Storybrooke, we've got poor Emma going through a lot of stress and suffering. But as Emma Swan does oh so well, she's putting a brave face on it and she's trying to pretend like she's not upset and she's trying to not talk about it. I actually really enjoyed the idea of Snow and Regina taking Emma out for like a girls' night to cheer her up, even though I take issue with the fact that anyone actually believed that he had just left her, because I have mixed feelings about this, because I do understand that it looked bad. They'd obviously had, you know, a disagreement over something pretty epic. She'd given the ring back. He was feeling horribly guilty. However, I love this relationship as much as I do, because from my perspective, and I know that not everyone agrees with this, and that's fine, because everyone is entitled to their own opinion and everyone views things differently, but the way that I've always seen it is that Emma's biggest problem in life, everything that all of the struggles that she had up until very recently, and even still struggles with now, is over being abandoned by people that she loves. People that she loves, or even people that she doesn't care about. She went through a lifetime of being consistently abandoned. She was abandoned by her parents. Yes, they had their reasons, but they still left her. She was abandoned by Neil. I have particular issues with this, and although I actually really like the character of Neil, and I do understand to an extent why he did what he did. What he did was the worst thing that he could possibly have done to her, because he took someone who was broken and vulnerable and terrified of being abandoned and terrified to love anyone because she always felt like she was going to be left, and he showed her love and he showed her affection and he gave her hope that she could have this happy life with someone, and then he left her with absolutely no explanation. He let her go to prison. I know he didn't know that she was pregnant, but like, she had to have that baby on her own, and she had to go through all of that, and she had to go through all of that by herself. And so that's why as she got older and she, you know, got a bit wiser to it, she just stopped trusting people and she stopped letting people in. She had these huge big walls and this huge guard up because she always felt like she was going to be left. Killian then came along, and he is the one person who has never done that. They've had their ups and downs, they've said things to each other that they regret, they've had moments where things haven't been going swimmingly, but the one thing is that he would never ever leave her. When it comes to the crunch, when it comes right down to it, he would never abandon her. And we've had this conversation before when they were dark ones. He pointed that out and she was like, I know you would never leave me, and you've never left me, and you were always there. And that's what she needed, and that's what he was, and that's what he's always been. And that's why I'm sort of like, right guys, are you seriously trying to tell me that you think he has actually genuinely abandoned her? Now from Emma's perspective, I get it, because it's like her worst fear coming true. It's like what she, I think, in the back of her mind has always expected to happen in her life, is that she'll be let down by the people closest to her. And so although she's come such a long way and she's opened herself up so much, and she's become so much more confident and happy and allowing herself to be vulnerable, we saw that when she found the ring and she said to him, like, basically, propose to me now, I want to marry you. We've seen how much he's grown and developed, and so, you know, she's come such a long way. However, when you've been let down like that in the past by people close to you, I mean, she was let down by foster families and stuff as well, but like, when it comes right back down to the very earliest parts of her life, she was let down by her parents, she was let down by the man that she fell in love with, and you know, I think that those insecurities will always be sort of buried somewhere away under there. And although her relationship with Killian, her relationship with her parents, her relationship with Henry and Regina and all of these people has helped her to rebuild that confidence and that sort of certainty that she is good enough, it's always going to be a sore spot. And so the idea of someone leaving her is something that she can relate to only too well, and that's why I think she kind of allowed herself to believe it. Wow, I just like, that was like a massive rant, but I felt like I had to get it off my chest. Anyway, the rest of them, however, are a little bit like, you guys, surely, like, the fact that you actually believe that he would walk away from her at this point actually insults me a little bit, but, you know, never mind, you're worried about Emma. I suppose I can forgive him for that. So I enjoyed the girls' night out scenes. Drunk Snow. I never knew that I needed a drunk Snow in my life until I witnessed it. I was like, this is fantastic. More drunk Snow scenes. Maybe at the wedding. Probably not. But that would be quite fun. We could have drunk Snow at the wedding. That would be like, oh, that'd be so good. Anyway, so my favourite scene, obviously we all know what my favourite scene in this episode is going to be, and it was when he managed to call her on the little shell phone thing, which I was like, oh, shell phone, I like that. But I loved that. I loved that, like, the sincerity in his voice. I loved how like sad and sort of closed off she'd looked for the whole episode, and then the minute that she heard his voice and he was saying that, you know, he was like reassuring her that he would never leave her, and that it was Gideon that had sent him away, and that he loved her and he was going to not stop until he got back to her. And oh, guys, it's just too cute. But anyway, I really enjoyed that scene, I thought it was lovely, and seeing her, like, her face light up when she realised that, like, he hadn't actually left her and that she could believe that he was coming back, and, you know, she was telling him that she loved him but he couldn't hear her. Oh, that was heartbreaking, because I just really want him to know that she knows, because his devastation and his desperation is because he knows her well enough to know that that is exactly what the problem is. He knows that her biggest fear is abandonment, and he knows that that's what all of her issues and all of her walls have been really built around. And so for him, it's just this devastating prospect of her ever thinking that he could do that to her. And so he's in such a blind panic and is so desperate to get back to show her, like, that she has nothing to worry about and that he's there for her, and oh, it's just too cute. So anyway, of course Gideon had to come in at the end and ruin it all. I mean, like, not as if he hadn't ruined everything already, but the fact that he had to swan in right at the very end and create this drama is just, I mean, like, we knew it was coming. Like, he has made it very clear that he is not finished with Emma yet. I'm interested that he's now decided that he wants Emma to kill the Black Fairy. I think that I'm really looking forward to all this stuff with the Black Fairy, actually. Jamie Murray, who plays the Black Fairy, here's a thing for her to be proud of. She's played my least favourite television character of all time, and I've watched a lot of TV, but her character in Dexter is without a doubt my least favourite TV character, and she played it brilliantly. She got under my skin so much that, like, I can't even tell you. So I think she's going to do a good job with this. But anyway, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how all that is going to pan out. So of course, because he knows that the Captain Swan feels are not enough as it already is, he's chosen to separate them because he's using that as his key to getting Emma to help him. Because he's basically said that there'll be no portals or, like, I mean, he must be pretty powerful. Like, he's basically said that Kellyanne's not going to be able to get back unless she helps him, because he must have blocked the portals or something. I don't really know how he's done that, but hopefully that'll get explained in the next episode. Did anyone else not think that Henry was, like, really not supportive at all in this episode? Like, Emma was, like, clearly, like, feeling sad and was, like, packing up. Like, she couldn't bear to look at Kellyanne's things because it was, like, too raw, and, like, her emotions were all over the place and she didn't want to have to deal with them because there's too many memories attached to stuff, so she's wanting it, like, packed away. So she's sitting going through all this stuff and, like, looking sadly at his bottle of rum and all that. Like, Henry's, like, sitting with his headphones in on his phone, and I was like, mate, your mum's, like, clearly going through something here. Do you not want to, like, step up and, you know, give her a hug? Actually, when you think about it, it's a good thing that he didn't pay more attention, because if he had taken that stuff out to the shed, she wouldn't have heard the shell message. So actually, it's probably a pretty good thing that he didn't listen. But I just thought, like, overall, he could have shown a little bit more compassion. Like, Snow and Regina are, like, taking her out in the town and trying to, like, you know, find ways to cheer her up, buy her drinks, distract her, and, like, make her talk about it and get her feelings off her chest. And Henry's like, it's a really good game on my phone. However, I really did like the Henry and Evil Queen moments in the previous episode where he called her mum and sort of gave her that send off that I think she probably really needed. So yeah, that was nice. Okay, I'm gonna stop rambling. I've rambled for a long time, but since it was a double episode review, I'm gonna allow myself that. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up to let me know, and do let me know in the comments down below what you thought of these two episodes. I cannot wait for next week. I'm excited already. I watched the promo, I have a lot of feels. So yeah, also thumbs up for that. And if you haven't already subscribed, you can hit that subscribe button now. There's one on the end card and one in the description box. And you can keep up to date with all of my videos. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye!